Hi, I'm making this video because I have several problems with the latest SciShows episode about knitting. So I am now going to read off some of the main points that I and a lot of people in the comments have major issues with. So I'm going to start by reading the transcript when the time was said and my feedback on that. So starting off at 0 seconds, Hank says, one of the oldest knit objects in the world is a sock that's about 800 years old, from Egypt. And this is immediately wrong. That was null binding, and null binding goes back to 6,500 BCE. Around 21 seconds, Hank says, perhaps knitting doesn't fill you to the brim with excitement. This is so insulting. He is setting off a defensive tone, acting as if he's apologizing for bringing up the subject and immediately implying disinterest. This is a tone-deaf move, considering that this video is also going to be having fibre artists immediately click onto it, because SciShows are rather respectable, highly researched program. Not for this episode, though. Around 1 minute and 7 seconds, Hank says, you could pull the loop from back to front to create a little V shape. That's a knit stitch, or front to back to make it a bump, which is a purl stitch. So this is right. Knit and purl are the two basic stitches, but he fails and neglects to mention that they are the exact same stitch. They're the same stitch. It's about the construction on the side that you're working from. A purl is a knit stitch behind it, whereas a knit stitch is a purl behind it. They are both the same stitch. It just, if you've got a knitted piece, right, it's got two sides. When you look at its symmetry from down in the middle, this is where it flips, right? But they are the same stitch. It's I don't know if this is a good example, but it's like saying a coin with two faces, different metals. They're the same. It's the same metal. Around 1 minute and 42 seconds, Hank says, for instance, if you make anything with a knit stitch on its front side, called a stockinette stitch, the top and bottom will curl towards you while the sides will curl away. The problem with this is actually the demonstrations that he's giving out. He is neglecting to show examples of how this fabric is curling, and the only image he shows is a reverse stockinette side. He fails to demonstrate what he is trying to say. It is just gibble gobble for anyone who has never picked up a piece of knitted fabric. Around 4 minutes and 13 seconds, he says, for centuries knitting was more of an art than a science, but then the physicists showed up. So I have problems with this script, and this is them. Number one, dismissing knitting by calling it art over science, when neglecting to mention the incredible amount of mathematics and topology it possesses. Knitting shouldn't be dismissed by saying it's just art. Number two, implying physicists are making knitting more interesting and better. This statement alone is reflecting a time when women were programmers in the late 19th century and 20th century. Then it was converted to men's work during the 60s as it moved on to software. Many women are still uncredited today from the programming progress they pioneered, while men's names are still heavily recognized. There's also a failure to recognize when knitting was a specialized profession during medieval times, mostly male knitters, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just a failure of recognition. Being a master knitter during medieval Europe was a highly respected craftsmanship. Imagine if we had the same attitude towards Michelin star chefs, minimizing their profession. It would just not sit right. Around 9 minutes and 32 seconds, Hank says, knitting evolved purely through intuition and trial and error. Trial and error is correct. The intuition part, those knit patterns that emerged from generations of knitters tipped off scientists that there might be something useful here. This is honestly degrading, and it's insulting. So, problems with that statement. Number one, I don't think there's evidence to suggest that knitting is pure intuition. There's no real history on how knitting exactly started. So that's just weird. Again, it requires a heavy amount of mathematics and topology. The act of pulling loops through loops was a discovery made by brilliant people, and the results of that discovery had the fruition of the fabrics that we take for granted today. Second, the statement of scientists found something useful is implying knitting was useless until scientists thought it could be used for niche sectors. This could have been reworded to say scientists discovered how certain properties of knitting could be used for their goals. All in all, this video was an insulting attempt to segue talking about new ultra-specific knitted fabrics and what their implications are benefiting. This video ridicules knitting like it's a dumb ancient craft that required no real thought until educated people with degrees made it more highly specialized. What Physicists done is amazing. This video was rushed and poorly made with the amount of offhand comments it proudly thought was good to keep in the script. Next time when making videos on specialized topics, at least for this video, have at least 2 people who are knitters and crocheters who are passionate about its science, mathematics, and history. This was a bad video. Do better.